As a new player to Dead by Daylight, one of the most important things there is knowing who you should be leveling first to get the strongest possible start. Knowing this or not can be the difference between making your way to the strongest build as fast as possible, or slowing your progress towards that by a lot. In this guide, I'll be running you through as much info as I can give on leveling, who you should be leveling, what perks are good, and how to level up as efficiently as possible. Alright, one of the most important things to know is about the basic function of play of Killer and Survivor. Every Killer in the game has their own unique power, making them all play differently. Survivors, however, have no unique mechanics to each of them, effectively making different survivors like reskins. Choosing one over the other won't give you an advantage, unless you count the advantage of blending.
What? I just got charged by a Blendette like a fucking rhino, and I have no idea where she went. I hate Blendettes so much.
Now, when leveling up, the most important thing to be going for is perks. You'll get several things from leveling up, like items, add-ons, offerings, but perks are the only thing that are permanent buffs to your character. The other things are consumables, one-time uses per game. At a high enough level, you can equip a maximum of 4 perks to boost your strength. Now, every character in this game, whether it's Survivor or Killer, comes with 3 perks that are unique to them. At first, these are called Teachable perks. Now, when leveling up, the perks the Bloodweb gives you are random from the pool of available perks. You can unlock the Teachable version of these perks at level 30, 35, and 40 respectively for that character. What unlocking the Teachable version means is that that perk is added to the available pool of perks for all your characters. So while Survivors start out unique with their 3 Teachable perks, if you, in theory, have every single Teachable perk unlocked, every single Survivor has the same strength and abilities. There is one more way to unlock Teachables, and that's through the Shrine of Secrets, which you can find in the shop menu. The shrine resets every week, every Wednesday, and has a different 4 Teachable perks in it each week. You can buy the Teachable perks in the shrine for 2,000 iridescent shards, which you get over time just by playing the game. The shrine can be a way for you to get Teachable perks from DLC characters you don't own, but the shrine is pretty well known to give consistently bad perks in it. I would recommend not using the shrine to get Teachables from characters you own anyway. Save those shards for either reskins or for perks from characters you don't own. As well with iridescent shards, you can use them to unlock more characters from the shop. 9,000 shards nets you a new character to play as. I've mentioned before how Survivors are just reskins of each other, so I'd say if you have 9,000 shards, buy a new Killer, which will unlock them, and their Teachable perks once you level them up enough. I'll give my recommendation on Killers to get from the shop later in this guide. Do keep in mind that you can't get licensed Killers from the shop. They're paid DLC only, so Killers like Myers, Leatherface, Freddy, Pig, and any other ones that may have come out by the time you see this. Anyway, Teachable perks for both Killer and Survivor is why knowing who to level up first is important, so I'll run through what the best Teachable perks are, both from the main game and then the DLC characters, starting with Survivors. Also keep in mind each perk can go up to level 3, I'll always be talking about the level 3 version of each perk. In the base game of DBD, you start with 7 Survivors, 6 if you're on console, and at the time of writing this script there are 17 Survivors total, with the most recent addition being Ash. The reason why there's a Survivor on PC that isn't on console is because the character is Bill from Left 4 Dead 2. Valve wants his character to remain on PC. For console users, his 3 Teachable perks are part of the already available pool of perks from the get-go. Now, for people who don't have any of the DLCs, well, all the best Survivor perks are pretty much on the Survivors you already have anyway. My recommendation on who to level first is one of these 3, David, Claudette, or Meg. Let's start with David. 2 of his 3 Teachable perks are great to get a hold of. His first notable perk is called We're Gonna Live Forever. This perk doesn't actually do anything to help you survive in any way, it just gives you more points to help leveling go by faster. Every time you rescue a Survivor from a hook, or you body block when the killer is carrying somebody, or you take a hit for somebody, you gain a stack, up to a maximum of 4 stacks. Now, for every stack that you have at the end of the round, it gives you an additional bonus 25% blood points to whatever you earned there. So if you get 4 stacks, you double your points from the round. You won't get 4 most games, but even 1 or 2 is a big boost over time to how many points you gain. It's the perfect perk for new players to get points to start dumping into all their other characters. Now his second notable perk is called Dead Hard. This is an exhaustion perk, and exhaustion perks are ones that you can only have one of, as it involves some sort of speed boost, after which you get exhausted for a while, which just means it's recharging. Dead Hard is a perk that you can only use while injured. If you press E, or whichever button it's set to while running, you get a very small burst of speed, only really enough to give you a couple of steps more of distance. But during the animation, you gain invincibility frames. So if the killer swings at you, you use Dead Hard so they miss, it could be enough of a break for you to make it to the next window or pallet and to safety. We're Gonna Live Forever and Dead Hard are both great perks to get on your survivors as soon as you can, and you unlock these teachables at level 30 and 35 respectively. The next best survivor to level is Claudette, as one of her perks is seen as a pretty staple must-run on almost everybody's survivor build. Her teachable perk, Self-Care, Teachable unlocked at level 40, allows you to heal yourself without the use of a medkit or help of another survivor. If there's nobody around and you don't have a medkit, it's the only way you can heal yourself from injury, which is why almost everybody who has it runs it. You should be trying to get this perk as soon as you can. Her other perks are Botany Knowledge and Empathy, letting you heal faster or see the aura of injured survivors across the map, respectively. These two aren't too good of perks, but definitely aren't awful. The last survivor I highly recommend leveling is Meg. Meg's trademark perk is Sprint Burst, an exhaustion perk that gives 150% speed boost for 3 seconds when she starts running. This makes it so that areas that would otherwise be dead zones, where there's no window or pallet nearby for her to use if the killer comes, becomes no problem as she can just sprint to the closest safe area. Sprint Burst is probably the strongest exhaustion perk in the game, and can bail you out of a lot of situations. This teachable unlocks at level 35. Another Meg teachable, Adrenaline, is another great perk. This perk can activate a maximum of once per match, when the last gen is done. Once all 5 generators are done, Adrenaline gives you 150% speed boost for 5 seconds and heals 1 health state instantly. So if you're getting chased and injured while the last gen gets done, you zoom away and get fully healed for free. It's definitely not a top tier perk with how situational it is, but it is still very strong, and honestly, it's just funny when it's perfectly timed to bail you out, which is why I usually use it. This teachable unlocks at level 40. Look how far that is!
Oh, what the heck?
Adrenaline, I'm out of here!
what? Oh my gosh, I can't believe I witnessed that.
Her third teachable, Quick and Quiet, allows you to do actions that are usually loud, like hopping into a locker fast or vaulting a window, with next to no sound, every 20 seconds. It can be pretty funny to go around the corner, hawk into a locker fast, and have the killer have no idea where you are, but it usually won't work when the killer has a brain, considering you vanished.
Wait, I got an idea, I got a white word. It's okay, guys, I got a white word. It's alright. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up, you didn't know I'm in this locker. Shut the fuck up. Are you fucking kidding me? Never mind, apparently that just worked. Never fucking mind, dude. I was just gonna eat the hook and die with the flashlight, but apparently he's too fucking...
It's mostly a perk to run for the funny moments when it works, but it usually won't help you out a whole lot. The teachable perk unlocks at level 30. So, to level up first, I would recommend one of David, Claudette, or Meg. No matter what order, I highly recommend leveling those 3 before any other survivor. When I started a new profile when I started streaming Dead by Daylight on Twitch, my order was David to Claudette to Meg. Then from there, it's pretty open to level whoever. Now, the other notable teachable perks on base game survivors. Bond from Dwight is a very underrated perk. It allows you to see the aura of all survivors within 36 meters. Knowing what your teammates are doing helps so much at being efficient. If you see somebody running towards a hooked person, you know they're going for the save, so you can work on generators instead. If you see somebody running and throwing pallets, they're probably getting chased, and you should work on generators. Bond is probably the best information perk survivors can get. Would highly recommend trying it out. Iron Will from Jake is a pretty situational perk. It makes you not make any sounds of injury while injured. It's basically like Quick and Quiet, where you can hide in weird places and confuse the killer, but it usually won't work when the killer has a brain. It can be funny when it does work though. Now, Urban Evasion from Nia is one of the best stealth perks in the game. It increases your speed while crouched by 100%. This makes your crouch walk even faster than your standard walk, so you can crouch walk around objects with enough speed to usually avoid the eyes of the killer. Balanced Landing from Nia is another exhaustion perk. It gives the same speed boost as Sprint Burst, but Balanced Landing activates when falling from a height, either off a building or hill or whatnot, in addition to decreasing the time you're stunned from the landing. Borrowed Time from Bill is a brilliant perk at saving hook survivors when the killer is camping the hook. If somebody is saved from the hook while in the heartbeat range of the killer, they get 20 seconds where, if they're hit, instead of going down, they enter a higher injured state called Deep Wounds, which can be healed back to injured without even self-care or a medkit. So, if you save with Borrowed Time and the killer goes straight for the person that was hooked, your fellow survivor does get another chase instead of going down again immediately. Unbreakable from Bill lets you heal from the dying state faster, and once per game, pick yourself up from the dying state without help from a fellow survivor after you fill your heal bar out of the way. It's very situational, since the killer will usually pick you up pretty soon after downing you instead of leaving you on the ground, but if the killer is downing everyone, Unbreakable is a chance to potentially save a failing round. Now, let's talk about the Good Survivor DLC Teachables, in case you're thinking about picking up a DLC or two, or just want to know what perks to look out for in the shrine. Decisive Strike from Lori is a good anti-tunneling perk, giving you a skill check to escape the killer's grasp if you're picked up again within a certain time after being unhooked. Lithe from Feng Min is another exhaustion perk with a sprint burst speed boost, this one activating when you vault a window or pallet fast. Tenacity from Detective Tap lets you heal in the dying state, while also moving, and at a faster speed than usual. Can pair well with Unbreakable. Diversion is an Atom perk that charges while in the killer's terror radius, the heartbeat range, and lets you toss a pebble when it's fully charged. The pebble creates a loud sound for the killer, making it seem like somebody is there. It's another perk that won't always work, but can be funny when it does.
Don't worry, I'm gonna pebble.
Pebble the shit out of him, he'll never know.
I got you, dude. I got you.
Oh no!
Look, he's out there chasing the pebble. Oh, look at how diverse he is.
Oh my god, he'll never know.
Oh, dude, easy, Jukes. He has no idea.
Deliverance is an Atom perk that lets you have a 100% chance to unhook yourself from the hook. But you need to have unhooked somebody else first, far enough away from the killer that the game counts it as a safe hook rescue, and unhooking yourself leaves you broken for a while, a state where you can't heal from injury. Because you need to unhook somebody else first before you get hooked for the first time, it's situational whether you get to use the perk or not during a game. Aftercare is a Jeff perk that links survivors when they help each other. If you unhook somebody, they unhook you, you heal someone, or they heal you, you get linked for the rest of the game. While you're linked, you can see their aura across the entire map, and they can see your aura across the entire map. It's like Bond, but with infinite range, lets other survivors see you too as well, but you have to perform altruistic actions on them, or vice versa for it to work with them. Head On from Jane is a wacky exhaustion perk involving lockers. If you stay in a locker for at least 3 seconds, and the killer's close enough to the locker, hopping out of the locker fast will stun the killer for 3 seconds. It's another one of those perks that's more funny than effective to run.
Okay, mine's ready. Get over here.
Locker, bitch, get out. Thank God. Oh, no. Oh, fuck.
Medal of Man is an Ash perk that can activate a maximum of once per match. After getting hit 3 times by the killer's basic attack, the perk activates. While activated, the next time a hit would send you into the dying state, you instead stay injured. The perk effectively gives you one more hit that you can take during the game if it gets charged. That's all I've got for the Teachable perks to go for, but I will mention some of the perks in the pool by default that aren't bad. Hope is a perk that gives you 7% additional speed for 2 minutes once the last gen is powered. If the killer is chasing you during that time, it makes you very hard to catch. Plunderer's Instinct shows you chests within 32 meters and gives you a higher chance of getting better items from chests. Premonition and Spine Chill are good perks for knowing where the killer is. Premonition gives you an auditory warning when you look in the direction of the killer, and the killer is within 36 meters. Premonition must then take 30 seconds to charge again. Spine Chill has no recharge time, can always activate, and will click on when the killer is within 36 meters and looking in your direction. So they both tell you when the killer is close. Spine Chill can always activate and tell you the killer is close, and slightly increases repair speed while activated. Premonition must recharge, but tells you the direction the killer is in. Will Make It is a great perk for healing people who just came off the hook. After unhooking somebody, heal speed is increased by 100% for 90 seconds. Now that we've dealt with the survivor perks, let's cover who I recommend leveling first with the killer side of the spectrum. My recommendation on who to level first is the Hillbilly. His Teachable perk, Enduring, which you unlock the Teachable of at level 30, reduces pallet stun time by 75%. This effectively makes it so you can swing through every pallet without fear of the stun, because you eat pallets for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It makes the stun barely noticeable. Enduring is a perk you probably want to be running on almost every killer. Once you start using Enduring, I promise you'll never want to go back. His other two perks aren't awful. Lightborn shuts down any chance of survivors using flashlights on you, but there are other ways to counter that without the perk, which I'll cover in a later guide, so it's usually a waste of a perk slot. Tinkerer removes your tear radius for 12 seconds when a gen reaches 85% completion, and notifies you with a sound that the gen is almost done, allowing you to sneak up and take the survivors by surprise. Lightborn and Tinkerer aren't awful, but there's much better perks to run instead. Enduring is the real prize. I'd recommend leveling Billy first for this perk, and then from there, whatever order. No base game killer has any perk as strong as Enduring, I'd argue, so level whoever you'd like. Though now I'll cover the base game killer Teachable perks that are notable. Brutal Strength from Trapper increases the speed at which you break pallets and generators by 20%. Less time breaking stuff means more time chasing survivors. Combine Brutal Strength with Enduring and goodbye pallets. Shadowborn from Wraith increases your field of view by 15 degrees, allowing you to see more and be more aware of everything going on. Strider from Nurse makes survivor breathing and injured sounds louder, allowing you to find survivors hiding close by if you're able to listen for them. Thanatophobia from Nurse will slow down survivor rate of progress of healing and doing gens by 4% for every person who is injured, dying, or on hook. The only ones it doesn't affect are healthy or dead survivors. It's a pretty decent perk at slowing down the game, and promotes you switching targets to get more people injured when you can. Nurse's Calling from Nurse lets you see the auras of survivors who are healing within a 28-meter range, letting you find them and get the down. Pretty much a must run on Nurse, since she can blink right on top of the healing survivor. I like to run it on Huntress as well, as she can potentially hatchet healing survivors. On other killers, it's not as strong as those two, but still a handy addition. So basically, none of Nurse's Teachable perks are super incredible, but all three are solid additions to a build, which is why I recommend potentially leveling Nurse early on. Up to you if any of these three perks call to you. I'd argue that's it for the base game killer's solid Teachable perks. Moving on to the DLC killers. Hex Ruin from Hag is potentially the best perk in the game at slowing down the game, depending on its spawn point. Because we haven't discussed Hex perks yet, Hex perks are perks that are so strong that the survivors are given a way to destroy them. 5 dull totems spawn in a map when it is generated, and for every Hex perk the killer has, it will be assigned to one of those 5 totems, making it lit. If the survivors destroy the lit totem, it eliminates the perk for the rest of the round. Hex Ruin makes generator great skill checks do nothing, and good skill checks regress the generator progress by 5%. And while the perk description doesn't say this, good skill checks also stop progress from happening for a couple seconds, so it really regresses at more than 5%. The survivors can potentially find the totem immediately. I've even had a game where from where I spawned, I went straight towards my totem, and they destroyed it before I could make it there. In these cases, the perk will have done nothing for you. But if it stays up a while, it can dramatically slow the game. Even if the survivors go looking for the totem, time looking for the totem is time not doing generators and keeping them in the game longer, but it's pretty up to the RNG of where it spawns. Max Devour Hope from Hag is one of those perks that won't often do much, but is great when it does. Every time a survivor is unhooked and you are 24 meters away, you gain a stack. At 2 stacks, you gain a small speed boost for 10 seconds after hooking a survivor. At 3 stacks, all survivors get exposed, meaning your basic attacks puts them straight into the dying state. And at 5 stacks, you can kill survivors by hand, regardless of how many times they are hooked. Often, somebody will find up finding the totem and destroying it before you even get 3 stacks, and the moment you one-shot somebody, everybody else will know to start looking for the totem, so you'll rarely get 5 stacks. It's one of those perks that seldom works, but is great when it does. I sometimes run on Hillbilly, because if I get to 3 stacks and manage to chainsaw downs instead of basic attack downs, it leaves survivors not knowing that I have Devour Hope, hopefully until 5 stacks. Don't expect this perk to be a super strong must run. Use it if you want to potentially have a wacky time. Monitor and Abuse from Doctor can help in certain situations. It decreases your terror radius by 8 meters when not in a chase, making it easier to sneak up on survivors, and increases your terror radius by 8 meters when in a chase, making other survivors think you're closer than you are. It's a decent addition to any killer, but is most effective on Myers. At tier 1 evil, the state Myers starts in, his terror radius is 8 meters, so decreasing it by 8 gives him no terror radius at evil within 1, giving you the chance to potentially pull people off of generators if you manage to sneak up on them. Barbecue and Chili from Leatherface is the best perk in the entire game at gaining points faster. After hooking a survivor, you see the auras of all survivors outside of 40 meter range for 4 seconds, if they're not in a locker, or behind a generator, or using the perk Distortion. Man, have they ever nerfed Barbecue. If you do manage to see somebody with Barbecue, which isn't as often as it used to be, you can start heading there to start another chase immediately and keep the pressure on the survivors and keep them from doing gens. In addition, every time you hook somebody you haven't hooked yet, you gain a stack. Each stack results in 25% bonus blood points at the end of the round. The survivor perk that gives you more points doesn't do anything in addition to more points, and you'll usually only get 1 or 2 stacks per round. Barbecue, however, is actually a useful perk, in addition to giving you more points, and you should be getting all 4 stacks almost every game. This is easily the teachable perk to look out for in the shrine the most, though it's only appeared there a handful of times ever, so don't get your hopes up. Make Your Choice from Pig is a perk that makes it so that if somebody saves another from a hook and you're more than 32 meters away, it gives the savior the exposed status, meaning they are one-shottable. This perk is decently solid on any killer. If put on a killer like Billy who can cross the map quickly by zooming by with his chainsaw, it can be even stronger. On a killer like Nurse who can blink across the map, and who otherwise just has her blinks, no one-shotting abilities like Billy, it can be absolutely lethal. Pop Goes the Weasel from Clown is a very strong perk at slowing down the game. After hooking a survivor, the next generator that you kick, if it's within 30 seconds of hooking, will instantly regress the generator by 25% of its progress. Spirit Fury from Spirit is an incredibly strong anti-pallet perk. After breaking 2 pallets, Spirit Fury becomes activated. When activated, if you get stunned by a pallet, you will still get stunned by the pallet, but the pallet breaks instantly and the perk deactivates, meaning you have to break 2 pallets again to activate it. If you pair this perk with Enduring, which cuts the stun time by 75%, it makes it so that the pallet gets broken instantly and you receive almost no stun, almost always resulting in a free hit. Enduring and Spirit Fury paired together are quite the lethal combination. I'd argue that's about it for notable killer teachable perks. Let's touch on some of the standard pool perks available to killers. Whispers is by far the best killer perk in the game. My stance on that won't change. It is incredibly solid to run on any killer in the game. Whispers will click on when there is a survivor within a 36 meter range. Keeping this in mind, you can know that the moment the perk goes from off to on, there is a survivor exactly 36 meters away from you. You can even use it to tell what direction a survivor is going if there's one left, and you stay right on the edge of where it clicks on, moving around to see which direction it clicks on in. Whispers also greatly helps efficiency. In Dead by Daylight, you can kick generators as killer, which starts regression on it. If you come up to a generator with progress on it, and Whispers is activated, you know for sure somebody is in the area, and you should search the area for them. If you don't find them, don't kick the generator. All that does is start regression, and the moment you leave, whoever you failed to find will start working on it again. Beginner killers will make the mistake of wasting time by kicking a generator every time. If somebody is near, Whispers is on, and you know that kicking it is a waste of time. If you come up to a gen with progress and Whispers is off, then nobody is around, and you should probably kick the gen. And don't search the area. Nobody is there, and searching there is a waste of time. Time you could spend searching places that actually have survivors. If you come up to a gen and Whispers is on, but then clicks off while you're looking for them, chances are they left the area to find another gen. Whispers is hands down the best killer perk in the game because it gives the most effective tracking in the game if you know how to use it and helps you be as efficient as possible. Deer Stalker can be good if you plan on leaving survivors downed, revealing the auras of downed survivors within 36 meters. Distressing increases the size of the tear radius by 26% and gives you 100% more blood points for actions in the deviousness category, so points gained by using your killer's unique power. One could argue you could get more points by not running this perk, since survivors get more notice that you're coming and you may not even find them because of that, but this perk is notable on the Doctor. While in treatment mode, survivors in the tear radius slowly gain madness, so increasing the tear radius size is quite nice for the Doctor. No, I'm not mentioning Noed, that perk is unfair and shouldn't be in the game. Ugh, guess I'll mention it. Hex No One Escapes Death is a perk that only gets assigned onto a dull totem once the last gen is done, instead of being active from the get-go, and allows you to one-shot survivors while the totem is active. Oh, he's fast! He's fast! He has Noed! No! Only run this perk if you'd like to be scummy and honestly don't like using your brain. If you get to the end game, where all the gens are done, it means you failed that round as killer. Failed to do your job of stopping them from doing gens, and Noed rewards you for doing bad, and can completely turn the game around as you start one-shotting. It's seen as something terrible to run among DVD players, considering it gives you a free pass potentially doing well as a reward for failing as a killer. Please, don't use it. Sloppy Butcher increases survivor bleeding, making blood trails easier to follow, and considerably increases the time it takes for survivors to heal. Spies from the Shadows is a good beginner tracking perk. Crows startled by survivors going by within 36 meters will give a visual cue to the killer to let you know somebody is right there. Because it's through startled crows, spies will only help you track if the survivors are moving. Whispers is the strongest tracking perk in the game and requires a decent amount of skill and knowledge to use. Spies is a decent tracking perk that doesn't require any skill, so it can be good for newer players. As you begin to get more experience though, you start knowing to actually use your eyes to look for crows flying up, telling you the location of survivors, rather than spies straight up telling you. I've been reported as a hacker before because I've teleported right on top of survivors hiding behind boxes as spirit because they moved and I saw the crows flying up. Spies can help beginners be aware of crows, but experienced killers will really just use their eyes almost as effectively as spies. That's it for the notable killer perks. I also mentioned at the beginning I would talk about which DLC killers to be aiming for. Leatherface is a good recommendation, but literally only for his perk Barbecue and Chili, since it's the best perk in the game at gaining blood points and making progress. He's a licensed killer, so he's paid DLC only, no getting him with shards from the shop. His DLC only includes him as a killer, no survivor, and he as a killer is literally just a worse version of Billy. The shrine is also pretty unreliable for getting Barbecue. It appears there once to twice per year. If you're willing to pick up a DLC just for a perk that could double your progress speed, despite the killer being useless, pick up Leatherface. Spirit can be a good killer to pick up from the shop. She as a killer is essentially one massive mind game. Very interesting to play as, but can take a lot of skill to get used to. Getting her also nets you her Teachable perk Spirit Fury, which is a solid addition to many killers. Heg is another good option to pick up from the shop, but with her coming equipped with Hex Ruin to share with all your other killers. She can be tricky to get down to play in an effective way, but can be satisfying when you get your traps just right. Definitely consider her. From there, really just look at all the available killers and choose who looks fun to you. I recommended Spirit and Hag because that gives you a new killer and a top tier perk each, but you don't have to choose them. Choose which killer seems appealing to you. Now, there's one more thing to leveling up, and that's how to spend as little blood points as possible to level up. You would level up by taking nodes in the blood web, and progress to the next level once you and the entity together have consumed all the nodes. Once you start getting 2 perks in the same web, you want to go straight for the perk you want immediately, every time. The moment you take the perk, the entity will eat the other one and start consuming nodes on the blood web. You want the entity to eat as many nodes as possible, because that means less nodes you have to spend blood points on. So make it come out by taking one of the 2 perks as soon as you can. Efficiently leveling also involves knowledge of how the entity works. The entity will always take the farthest out path. If it's on a node connected to 2 others, one is on a ring closer in and the other's on a further out ring or the same ring, it'll always take the latter. You can see the rings in the background with a blood web. Or if there's a node closer in and one on the same ring, it'll take the same ring one. It always takes the node it has access to the furthest out. If the entity gets cut off, either you cut it off or it reaches a dead end, it'll jump to a random node on whichever ring has the furthest out nodes. One of the best things you can make the entity do is cut off other stuff. If the entity is traveling towards an inner ring, and a node on the first ring is the only one that leads to another branch of nodes, then the entity will not only consume it, but every node that is cut off by taking that one. Bloodweb RNG is all over the place, so you won't always be able to do this, but try to route the entity to the best of your ability to cut off as much stuff as possible. Identify nodes that are the only thing leading to several other branches, and try to get the entity to go there. If the entity has 2 paths it can take, it'll by default take the further out one, but if you take the further out one before it does, it will instead go to the inner one. Keep these tips in mind to spend as little blood points per level as possible. The last thing to mention about leveling is prestiging. When you reach level 50, the level number won't increase anymore, but you can still get infinite more bloodweb levels. Alternatively, you can prestige, which takes away everything you have on one character, except for cosmetics, resets you to level 1, and gives you 1 prestige cosmetic, which is bloody clothing. You can go up to prestige 3. Prestige 1 gives you a bloody shirt, prestige 2 is bloody pants, and prestige 3 is a bloody face. Prestiging, according to the game, also gives you higher rarity items in the bloodweb, but people have done in-depth testing of each prestige level, and it seems like prestiging gives you the exact same rarity of items as no prestige. Links to this study in the description. So all prestiging does is give you bloody cosmetics, and makes you have to level up all over again. So I mean, if you really like bloody clothing, or really want to perfect a character, go for it. Otherwise, don't prestige. It's a waste of blood points, and you could be using those blood points instead to level up more characters, rather than dumping way more into one specific character just for bloody clothes. I hope this guide has helped you figure out who you should be dumping your blood points into, what perks you should be looking for as a new player, and how to level up as efficiently as possible. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to stop by my Twitch, link in the description, or leave a comment down below. I'll also leave a link to the playlist containing all my Dead by Daylight guides for if you'd like to learn gameplay advice and proper play. I know this video was pretty long, but keeping all this knowledge in mind helps you be on track for the strongest possible start into the world of Dead by Daylight. Thanks so much for watching the video, and I'll see you in the fog. What a world this is. Please don't hatchet me. Where is she? There she is. Please don't hatchet me. Why is she vaulting? Whee! Oh my goodness. There's loops I'm running around though. Oh my. Ooh. Not like this. I got such a hard read. My goodness. Okay, pre through the pallet because it's Huntress.